Most people destroy their tomorrow before they even close their eyes tonight. They lie in bed, replaying every mistake, every worry, every fear, poisoning their mind right before sleep. But what if I told you that the last thoughts you think before sleep become the seeds that grow in your subconscious all night long? What if those final moments could actually heal your mind instead of hurting it? Your mind never stops working. Even when you sleep, it's processing, sorting, and building tomorrow's reality from today's thoughts. Most people hand their mind garbage right before bed, scrolling through social media, watching the news, or drowning in anxiety about tomorrow. Then they wonder why they wake up feeling heavy, tired, and overwhelmed. But ancient wisdom teaches us something different. The moments before sleep are sacred. They're when your conscious mind steps aside and your subconscious takes over. This is your chance to program your mind for peace, strength, and clarity. Tonight, I'm going to share 10 powerful statements that can transform not just how you sleep, but how you wake up and live. Here's the problem nobody talks about. Your bedtime thoughts are creating your morning mood. Every single night, millions of people are accidentally training their minds for stress, anxiety, and defeat. They're lying there thinking about all the things that went wrong, all the things that could go wrong, and all the ways they're not good enough. Your subconscious mind is like soil. Whatever seeds you plant before sleep will grow overnight. If you plant seeds of worry, you'll wake up anxious. If you plant seeds of anger, you'll wake up frustrated. If you plant seeds of fear, you'll wake up feeling overwhelmed before your day even begins. Most people don't realize they're doing this to themselves. They think their morning mood just happens randomly. They blame their bad days on circumstances, other people, or just bad luck. But the truth is, they're creating their own suffering by feeding their mind poison right before they sleep. The ancient masters understood this. They knew that the transition between waking and sleeping was a doorway, a moment when the mind becomes soft and impressionable. They used this time not to torture themselves, but to plant seeds of wisdom, peace, and strength. I release all that does not serve me. Your mind is like a container that fills up throughout the day. Every interaction, every thought, every emotion gets poured into this container. By the time you reach your bed, this container is overflowing with the residue of your day. Harsh words from someone at work still echo in your ears. The stress from that traffic jam still sits in your shoulders. The disappointment from that missed opportunity still weighs on your heart. The frustration from that difficult conversation still burns in your chest. All of this accumulates, creating a heavy burden that most people drag into their sleep. Think about it. When you lie down at night, you're not just lying down with your body, you're lying down with every single experience from the past 16 hours. Your mind doesn't naturally filter out what serves you from what doesn't. It holds on to everything with equal intensity. The criticism from your boss carries the same weight as the compliment from your friend. The moment of anxiety carries the same presence as the moment of joy. Your subconscious doesn't discriminate, it simply stores it all. This is where most people make their greatest mistake. They assume that carrying these experiences into sleep somehow helps them process or solve them. They believe that replaying that argument will help them win it next time. They think that worrying about tomorrow's presentation will help them perform better. They convince themselves that judging today's mistakes will prevent future ones. But this is not processing, this is poison. This is not preparation, this is self-destruction. When you consciously say, I release all that does not serve me, you're doing something radical. You're taking back control of what gets to stay in your consciousness and what must go. You're becoming the gatekeeper of your own peace. This is not about pretending difficult things didn't happen. This is not about avoiding responsibility or hiding from reality. This is about recognizing the difference between carrying something with awareness and carrying something with suffering. The practice is simple but profound. As you prepare for sleep, imagine each burden as a physical object. That frustration from today's meeting, see it as a heavy stone in your hand. That worry about next week's deadline, visualize it as a rope tied around your wrist. That resentment from last month's betrayal, picture it as a weight on your back. Now, one by one, consciously set these objects down. Place the stone beside your bed. Untie the rope from your wrist. Remove the weight from your back. This is not magical thinking. This is practical wisdom. Your nervous system responds to your conscious intentions. When you genuinely choose to release what doesn't serve you, your body receives the message. Your breathing deepens. Your muscles relax. Your heart rate slows. Your mind shifts from the state of holding on to everything to the state of letting go. The ancient teachings tell us that attachment is the root of suffering. This doesn't mean you shouldn't care about things or that you shouldn't take action when action is needed. It means you don't have to carry the emotional weight of every experience into every moment that follows. You can engage fully with life without being enslaved by life's experiences. Most people are afraid to let go because they think letting go means not caring. They believe that if they release their worry, they won't be motivated to solve their problems. They think that if they let go of their anger, they'll become weak and others will take advantage of them. They imagine that releasing their guilt means they won't learn from their mistakes. But this is fear talking, not wisdom. The truth is exactly the opposite. When you release what doesn't serve you, you create space for what does serve you. When you let go of worry, you make room for clarity. When you release anger, you create space for strength. When you drop guilt, you open up to learning. A mind that's cluttered with yesterday's garbage cannot see today's solutions clearly. Sleep is meant to be your reset button. It's your daily opportunity to clear the cache of your consciousness and start fresh. But if you bring all of today's stress into tonight's sleep, you wake up tomorrow with yesterday's burdens still intact, plus whatever new burdens tomorrow brings. This is how people accumulate stress over weeks, months, and years until they feel completely overwhelmed by life. When you make releasing a nightly practice, you stop this accumulation. You end each day clean. You wake up each morning fresh. You approach each new challenge with full capacity instead of carrying forward the unresolved energy from previous challenges. This single practice can transform not just your sleep, but your entire relationship with life's inevitable difficulties. Today, I did my best with what I had. There's a voice that visits most people at bedtime. It's the voice of the inner critic, and it arrives with a long list of accusations. You should have worked harder today. You should have been more patient with your family. You should have made better decisions. You should have accomplished more. You should have been kinder, smarter, more productive, more present, more everything. This voice doesn't come to help you improve. It comes to torture you with impossible standards and endless comparisons to some perfect version of yourself that exists only in your imagination. This inner critic has convinced most people that self-punishment equals self-improvement. It tells them that if they just criticize themselves harshly enough, they'll somehow become better people. It promises that guilt and shame are motivating forces that will drive them toward excellence. But this is one of the most destructive lies you can believe about yourself and about growth. The reality is that you showed up to today with a specific set of circumstances, resources, and capacities. Your energy level when you woke up, your emotional state based on recent experiences, your physical health at this moment in time, your current level of knowledge and skill, your financial situation, your family responsibilities, your work pressures, your mental bandwidth, your emotional reserves, all of these factors combined to create the context within which you operated today. Within that context, you made choices. Some of those choices may have been brilliant, others may have been questionable, most were probably somewhere in between. Good enough choices made by an imperfect human doing their best to navigate a complex world with limited information and finite resources. But the key understanding is that all of these choices were made by today's version of you, working with today's resources, operating within today's constraints. Tomorrow's version of you might have more energy, better information, or different circumstances. Yesterday's version of you had different constraints and resources, but today's version of you, the you that actually lived this day, could only work with what was available to you in each moment as it unfolded. This doesn't mean you should lower your standards or stop striving for improvement. It doesn't mean mistakes don't matter or that you shouldn't learn from experiences. It means that right now, in this moment, you can acknowledge that you showed up and did what you could with what you had. This acknowledgement isn't making excuses, it's recognizing reality. The person who gets up early to exercise even though they're tired is doing their best with their current level of motivation and energy. The person who chooses to sleep in because they're exhausted is also doing their best with their current needs and circumstances. The parent who loses patience with their children is doing their best with their current emotional bandwidth. The parent who maintains perfect calm is doing their best with their current resources. There's no universal standard for what best looks like, because every person's situation is unique. When you judge yourself by external standards or compare your efforts to others, you're comparing your inside experience to their outside appearance. You're comparing your struggles to their highlights. You're comparing your current capacity to some imaginary infinite capacity that doesn't exist in any real human being. Self-compassion isn't self-indulgence. Research consistently shows that people who practice self-compassion actually achieve more over time than people who rely on self-criticism. Why? Because self-compassion preserves your energy for actual improvement rather than wasting it on self-punishment. It maintains your confidence rather than destroying it with constant criticism. It keeps you motivated through kindness rather than trying to motivate you through fear and shame. When you practice the phrase, "Today I did my best with what I had," you're not settling for mediocrity. You're acknowledging your humanity. You're recognizing that growth happens through consistent effort over time, not through perfect performance on any single day. You're building the kind of inner foundation that can support real lasting change, rather than the shaky foundation of self-hatred that eventually crumbles under its own weight. This practice creates psychological safety within your own mind. When you know you won't be brutally criticized for being human, you become more willing to take risks, try new things, and stretch beyond your comfort zone. When you know you'll be treated with kindness regardless of outcomes, you can put yourself in situations where failure is possible, which means situations where real growth is possible. Most importantly, this practice allows you to rest. When you go to bed knowing you did your best with what you had, you can actually sleep peacefully. You're not lying awake replaying every mistake or strategizing how to defend yourself against your own inner critic. You're simply resting in the knowledge that you're a human being who showed up to life today and gave what you could give. I choose peace over chaos. Every evening, as millions of people prepare for sleep, they unknowingly make a choice that will shape their entire night and the morning that follows. This choice happens so automatically, so unconsciously, that most people don't even realize they're making it. They lie down with their minds still churning from the day's events, their thoughts racing between past conflicts and future worries, their nervous system still activated from hours of stress and stimulation. They think this mental chaos is just what happens naturally at bedtime, something they have no control over. They believe their emotional state is simply the inevitable result of their circumstances. But this belief is one of the most limiting illusions that keeps people trapped in cycles of poor sleep and morning anxiety. The fundamental truth that wisdom traditions have taught for thousands of years is that you always have a choice about your inner state, not about what happens around you. That is often beyond your control, but about what happens within you. You can choose to enter sleep in a state of peace, or you can choose to enter sleep in a state of chaos. Most people choose chaos without realizing they're choosing anything at all. They simply allow their minds to continue the same agitated patterns they've been running all day, dragging every worry, every frustration, every unresolved conflict into their rest time. Consider what happens when you choose chaos. Before sleep, your mind enters the night carrying the full weight of every stressful moment from the day. The argument with your colleague, the traffic jam that made you late, the bill you're worried about paying, the relationship problem you can't seem to solve, the project deadline that's approaching. All of these concerns remain active in your consciousness as you try to rest. Your nervous system, which has been in fight or flight mode for hours, never receives the signal that it's safe to downshift into restoration mode. When your mind is chaotic at bedtime, your subconscious spends the night trying to process all this agitated energy. Your dreams become restless, filled with anxiety-producing scenarios. Your body remains tense even in sleep, your muscles never fully relaxing, your breathing staying shallow. You toss and turn, wake up frequently or sleep fitfully. Even if you manage to sleep for 8 hours, you wake up feeling tired because your system never truly rested. The chaos you took to bed with you contaminated your entire night's recovery. But there is another way. When you consciously choose peace before sleep, you're making a decision that transforms everything. You're deciding that this transition time, these precious minutes between waking consciousness and sleep, will be sacred space. You're choosing to honor your need for rest by clearing your mental and emotional space before you lie down. You're recognizing that peace is not something that happens to you, but something you create within yourself through conscious choice. Choosing peace before sleep begins with understanding what peace actually is. Peace is not the absence of problems or challenges. It's not a feeling of euphoria or artificial positivity. Peace is a state of inner stillness that can exist regardless of external circumstances. It's the ability to remain centered even when life is uncertain. It's the capacity to approach difficulties from a place of calm strength rather than reactive panic. Peace is not passive, it's powerfully present. A peaceful mind is not an empty mind, it's a clear mind. The practice of choosing peace requires you to first become aware of the chaos you've been unconsciously choosing. As you prepare for bed, pause and honestly assess your inner state. What thoughts are running through your mind? What emotions are you carrying in your body? What energy are you bringing to this time of rest? Without judgment, simply observe what's happening within you. Notice how your mind wants to keep churning, keep planning, keep worrying, keep replaying the day's events. Then comes the moment of choice. With full awareness of what you're doing, decide to set down the mental and emotional baggage you've been carrying. Recognize that continuing to think about your problems while trying to sleep serves no useful purpose. Your problems will still exist tomorrow, but you'll be better equipped to handle them if you sleep peacefully tonight. Choose to trust that your rested mind will see solutions that your tired mind cannot. Choose to believe that peace is not irresponsible. It's the most responsible thing you can do for yourself and everyone who depends on you. This choice must be renewed each night because your mind has been conditioned for chaos. Society constantly reinforces the belief that worried people are responsible people, that anxious people are realistic people, that peaceful people are naive people. The news media profits from keeping you in a state of alarm. Social media algorithms feed you content designed to trigger emotional reactions. Your workplace culture may reward burnout and punish rest. All of these forces conspire to convince you that chaos is normal and peace is luxury you can't afford. But the masters of inner peace throughout history have understood something different. They know that a calm mind makes better decisions than an agitated mind. A peaceful heart sees opportunities that a fearful heart misses. A rested body performs better than an exhausted body. When you choose peace before sleep, you're not avoiding your responsibilities, you're preparing yourself to handle them with greater skill and wisdom. You're investing in the quality of tomorrow by taking care of today's need for restoration. My worth is not determined by my productivity. In the quiet moments before sleep, when the day's activities wind down and the mind turns inward, many people encounter a familiar and cruel companion, the voice that measures their worth by what they accomplished. This voice arrives with its clipboard and calculator, ready to tally up the day's achievements and failures, ready to render its verdict on whether they deserve to rest or whether they should feel guilty about closing their eyes. This voice has been shaped by decades of conditioning in a society that has made productivity the ultimate measure of human value, that treats people like machines, whose worth can be calculated by output per hour. Watch how this works in the theater of your mind as bedtime approaches. The voice begins its assessment. Did you work hard enough today? Did you complete enough tasks from your to-do list? Did you make progress on your goals? Did you use your time efficiently? Did you live up to your potential? Were you as productive as your colleagues, your friends, your own impossible standards? Each question carries the implicit threat that failure to meet some arbitrary standard of achievement means you are somehow less valuable as a human being. This toxic evaluation system turns bedtime into a courtroom where you serve as both prosecutor and defendant. You present evidence of your productivity failures, the tasks left undone, the opportunities missed, the moments of rest or leisure that could have been spent working. You cross-examine yourself about your choices, your effort, your priorities. You render harsh judgments about your worth based on metrics that have nothing to do with who you are as a person. And then you try to sleep peacefully while carrying the weight of these self-imposed guilty verdicts. The fundamental error in this entire process is the assumption that productivity and worth are connected at all. This connection is not a natural law or a spiritual truth. It's a learned belief, a social construction that serves certain economic systems but destroys individual peace and well-being. You were not born believing that your value depended on your output. Small children do not measure their worth by their achievements. They exist in a natural state of inherent value, secure in their right to love, care, and belonging, simply because they are alive. The truth that gets buried under layers of social conditioning is that your worth was established at the moment of your existence and has remained constant ever since. It did not increase when you learned to walk or decrease when you struggled in school. It did not rise when you got your first job or fall when you made your first mistake. It has not fluctuated with your promotions, your bank account, your achievements, or your failures. Your worth is not a variable that changes based on performance. It is a constant that remains steady regardless of circumstances. This may be difficult to accept because you have been trained from childhood to believe otherwise. Parents reward you for good behavior and withdraw approval for bad behavior. Schools teach you that your value can be measured by grades and test scores. Workplaces promote the fiction that your human worth correlates with your professional output. Social media platforms quantify your value through likes, shares, and followers. Every system you encounter reinforces the same basic lie that you must earn your place in the world through constant doing, achieving, producing, performing. But consider the absurdity of this belief system. Does a tree need to produce a certain number of leaves to justify its existence? Does a mountain need to achieve specific height measurements to earn its place in the landscape? Does a flower need to meet productivity quotas to deserve sunlight and water? Nature operates on principles of inherent worth and mutual support, not competitive achievement and earned value. You are part of nature, not separate from it, and your worth follows the same principles. When you tie your worth to your productivity, you create a psychological prison with no possibility of parole. No matter how much you achieve, it will never feel like enough because the goalposts constantly move. Each accomplishment only raises the bar for what you must do next to prove your value. Success becomes a drug that provides temporary relief from worthlessness, anxiety, but the relief always wears off, requiring ever larger doses of achievement to provide the same psychological high. This system also makes it impossible to truly rest. If your worth depends on what you produce, then any time spent not producing feels like time spent becoming less valuable. Sleep becomes a necessary evil rather than a cherished restoration. Leisure becomes guilt-inducing rather than rejuvenating. Rest feels like weakness rather than wisdom. You live in a constant state of productivity anxiety, always feeling behind, always feeling like you should be doing more. The people who accomplish the most meaningful and lasting achievements in human history have understood something that productivity-obsessed culture misses. Authentic achievement flows from a foundation of inherent worth, not from attempts to earn worth through achievement. When you know your value is secure, regardless of outcomes, you can take the kinds of risks that lead to breakthrough innovations. You can fail spectacularly without being destroyed, because you know failure doesn't diminish your worth. You can pursue goals from passion and curiosity rather than from desperate attempts to prove yourself. The practice of separating your worth from your productivity begins with recognition, seeing clearly how deeply this toxic belief has infiltrated your self-concept. Then comes the choice to reject this programming and remember your inherent value. When you lie down at night, instead of reviewing your productivity report card, you can simply rest in the knowledge that you are valuable because you exist. I forgive myself and others. As the day draws to a close and you prepare to surrender to sleep, there is perhaps no heavier burden that people carry than the weight of unforgiveness. It sits on their chests like a stone, making each breath a struggle. It wraps around their hearts like chains, making each beat an effort. It fills their minds like dark clouds, blocking out any possibility of peace. Most people don't realize how much energy they spend maintaining their resentments, their grudges, their anger toward others and themselves. They don't understand that unforgiveness is not a moral stance or a form of justice. It's a prison they've built around their own peace. Watch what happens in the moments before sleep. The mind, freed from the distractions of the day, naturally turns inward. And there, waiting in the shadows, are all the unresolved hurts, all the accumulated grievances, all the ways others have disappointed or betrayed or wounded you. There also are all the ways you've disappointed yourself, all the mistakes you've made, all the opportunities you've missed, all the times you've fallen short of your own expectations. These memories don't just replay, they replay with full emotional intensity, as if the hurts happened moments ago, rather than days, weeks, or years in the past. This is the cruel trick that unforgiveness plays on you. It convinces you that holding on to anger towards someone who hurt you will somehow hurt them back. It tells you that maintaining resentment will protect you from being hurt again. It promises that guilt and self-hatred will motivate you to be better. But none of these promises are true. The person who hurt you sleeps peacefully while you lie awake burning with resentment. The people who disappointed you go about their lives while you carry their actions like wounds that never heal. Your past mistakes cannot be undone by present self-punishment. Real forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. It has nothing to do with whether they deserve it, whether they've apologized, whether they've changed, or whether what they did was acceptable. Forgiveness is not about them at all. Forgiveness is about you choosing freedom over bondage, peace over turmoil, health over sickness. When you forgive, you're not saying what happened was okay. You're saying that what happened will not continue to poison your present moment. The most profound form of forgiveness, and often the most difficult, is self-forgiveness. You carry within you a harsh inner critic that has been cataloging your failures, mistakes, and shortcomings for years. This internal voice knows exactly which wounds to poke when you're vulnerable. It knows your deepest shames, your secret fears, your most painful regrets. And bedtime, when your defenses are down and your mind is quiet, is when this voice becomes loudest. The mistakes you made today join the growing collection of evidence this inner critic uses to prove that you're not good enough. The harsh words you spoke in anger, the opportunity you missed because of fear, the promise you broke because you were overwhelmed, the way you reacted when you meant to respond with wisdom. All of these become weapons your mind uses against your peace. But carrying these mistakes into sleep serves no purpose except to ensure that tomorrow begins with the same burden yesterday ended with. Self-forgiveness is not the same as excusing bad behavior or avoiding responsibility. It's not about pretending mistakes don't matter or that growth isn't necessary. Self-forgiveness is about recognizing that you are a human being who is learning and growing through experience. Every mistake is information. Every failure is feedback. Every moment when you fall short of your ideals is simply a moment that shows you where growth is still needed. When you practice forgiveness before sleep, both forgiving others and forgiving yourself, you're engaging in the most practical form of mental hygiene. You're clearing your psychic space the way you clear your physical space. You're choosing not to carry today's emotional debris into tomorrow's fresh opportunities. You're acknowledging that sleep is meant to be restorative, and restoration cannot happen in the presence of active resentment and self-hatred. The practice itself is simple but profound. As you prepare for sleep, bring to mind anyone toward whom you're holding resentment. See their face clearly. Feel the anger or hurt or disappointment you've been carrying. Then consciously choose to release them from your need for revenge or justice or apology. This doesn't mean you trust them or want them in your life or think what they did was acceptable. It means you're choosing not to let their actions continue to disturb your peace. Then turn this same compassion toward yourself. Bring to mind the ways you disappointed yourself today. The moments when you acted from fear instead of love, from anger instead of wisdom, from ego instead of humility. Feel the shame or guilt or regret you've been carrying. Then consciously choose to release yourself from your own harsh judgment. This doesn't mean you won't learn from these experiences or strive to do better tomorrow. It means you're choosing to learn from a place of self-compassion rather than self-attack. The ancient wisdom traditions understood that forgiveness is not a feeling, it's a decision. You don't forgive because you feel like it. You forgive because you choose freedom over bondage. You forgive because you understand that resentment hurts you more than it hurts anyone else. You forgive because you know that peace is possible, but only if you're willing to lay down the weapons you've been using against yourself and others. When forgiveness becomes a nightly practice, something miraculous begins to happen. You stop accumulating emotional debt. You stop building up resentments that poison your days and disturb your sleep. You begin to approach each new day with a clean slate instead of carrying forward the unresolved conflicts of all your previous days. Your sleep becomes deeper because you're not lying there rehearsing old hurts. Your dreams become more peaceful because your subconscious isn't processing anger and guilt all night. You wake up lighter because you've been practicing the art of letting go. Tomorrow will bring its own strength. There is a peculiar habit that haunts most people as they prepare for sleep, a mental pattern so common that it seems almost normal, yet it is one of the most destructive things you can do to your peace of mind. This is the habit of borrowing tomorrow's problems and trying to solve them with tonight's exhausted consciousness. As you lie in bed, your mind begins to race ahead into the future, gathering up every challenge, every responsibility, every potential difficulty that awaits you in the hours and days to come. It presents these future scenarios to your tired brain and demands immediate solutions, as if solving tomorrow's problems tonight will somehow make them disappear. Watch how this unfolds in the quiet moments before sleep. Your mind starts its familiar inventory of concerns. Tomorrow, you have that important meeting at work. Next week, there's that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Next month, you have to make that major decision that's been weighing on you. Your mind pulls each of these future events into the present moment, demanding that you think through every possible outcome, plan for every contingency, solve every potential problem before you're allowed to rest. It creates elaborate scenarios of everything that could go wrong and insists that you must figure out solutions right now, tonight, while you're lying in bed trying to sleep. This mental time travel is not preparation, it's self-torture. It's based on the illusion that your worried, tired mind tonight has access to the same resources that your rested, clear mind will have tomorrow. It assumes that the solutions you generate while exhausted will be as effective as the solutions you might discover when you're refreshed and alert. It pretends that worrying about future problems somehow prepares you to handle them better when they actually arrive. But none of this is true. The mind that lies awake at night, churning through tomorrow's challenges, is operating with diminished capacity. Your mental clarity decreases as the day progresses. Your emotional resilience drops. When you're tired, your creativity and problem-solving abilities are at their lowest when you're exhausted. The solutions you generate in this state are often inferior to what you'll be capable of when you're well rested. More importantly, many of the problems you worry about at night never actually materialize, meaning you've suffered through imaginary difficulties that exist only in your anxious projections. The ancient teachings point to a fundamental truth that modern minds have forgotten. Each day contains its own energy, its own wisdom, its own capacity for handling whatever arises. Tomorrow's version of you will not be the same as tonight's version of you. Tomorrow you will wake up with restored mental clarity, renewed emotional strength, and fresh perspective on your challenges. The problems that seem overwhelming tonight may appear manageable in the morning light. The solutions that elude your tired mind tonight may become obvious to your rested mind tomorrow. This is not wishful thinking or naive optimism. This is practical wisdom based on how your consciousness actually operates. Sleep is not just rest for your body, it's restoration for your entire being. While you sleep, your brain processes information, consolidates memories, and reorganizes neural pathways. Your emotional system rebalances itself. Your stress hormones return to normal levels. Your creative faculties recharge. You literally wake up as a more capable version of yourself than the one who went to sleep. When you remind yourself that tomorrow will bring its own strength, you're making a profound act of trust. You're trusting that you don't have to solve everything right now. You're trusting that future challenges will be met by future resources that aren't available to you in this moment. You're trusting that your rested self will be better equipped to handle difficulties than your exhausted self could ever be. This trust requires courage because it means letting go of the illusion of control. Your mind wants to believe that by thinking about problems obsessively, it's somehow preventing them or preparing for them. It wants to maintain the fantasy that worry equals responsibility, that anxiety equals preparation. But wise people understand that real preparation for tomorrow begins with proper rest. Tonight, the best gift you can give to tomorrow's challenges is today's peaceful sleep. Consider the farmer who plants seeds in spring. He doesn't sit by the field all night, worrying about whether the seeds will grow, trying to control the weather, fretting about potential problems. He plants the seeds, provides what care is needed, and then trusts the process. He knows that tomorrow will bring whatever conditions tomorrow brings, and he'll respond to those conditions when they arrive. He sleeps peacefully, knowing that his worried mind can't make the crops grow any faster or any better. Your life operates on the same principle. You can plant the seeds of good decisions, careful planning, and thoughtful action during your waking hours. But once you've done what you can do today, You must trust the process. Tomorrow will arrive with its own light, its own energy, its own possibilities. The challenges you face then will be met by the strength you'll have then. Strength that can only be fully available if you allow yourself to rest now. When you make this trust a nightly practice, you break the cycle of borrowing tomorrow's troubles. You stop living in a constant state of future-focused anxiety. You learn to inhabit the present moment fully, including the present moment of rest. Your sleep becomes deeper and more restorative, because you're not asking your subconscious to solve problems that don't yet exist. You wake up each morning with full capacity to engage with whatever the day actually brings, rather than waking up already exhausted from fighting battles that may never come. I am grateful for this day's gifts. The day has concluded, and in the quiet that follows, the mind often performs its final, most critical audit. It is in this space, between wakefulness and sleep, that the ledger of the day is most vividly reviewed. For many, this audit is a process of highlighting deficits, of noting all that was not achieved, all that went awry, all the moments of lack and friction. This focus on the negative is not a character flaw, but a deeply ingrained survival mechanism, a primitive part of our neurology that scans for threats and shortcomings to ensure our safety. Yet, in the modern world, this mechanism often turns inward, creating a landscape of anxiety and dissatisfaction, where we lie in bed cataloging our failures and fears. To consciously choose the statement, "I am grateful for this day's gifts," is to perform a radical act of mental alchemy. It is the deliberate decision to end the day not by reviewing what was taken, but by acknowledging what was given. This is not a denial of the day's difficulties. It is a refusal to allow those difficulties to claim sole ownership of the narrative. It is an acknowledgement that even the most challenging day is not a monolith of misery, but a complex tapestry woven with threads of both shadow and light. And gratitude is the practice of bringing your attention to the light. The practice of gratitude functions as a recalibration of perception. The entire day, your senses have been bombarded with millions of bits of information, and your conscious mind, in its efficiency, has filtered out the vast majority, deeming it unimportant. Often what it deems important are the problems to be solved, the obstacles to be overcome, the potential threats on the horizon. The small, quiet moments of beauty, connection, or simple comfort are frequently relegated to the background, noticed but not truly seen, experienced but not fully absorbed. The nightly practice of gratitude is the process of revisiting that vast store of experiences and consciously selecting those moments of grace to be re-examined and revalued. It is searching for the gifts. Perhaps it was the precise warmth of the sunlight through a window at a particular moment in the afternoon, a sensation that lasted only a few seconds but offered a fleeting sense of peace. Perhaps it was the effortless courtesy of a stranger who held a door open, a small exchange that maintained the flow of a hectic moment. It could be the profound comfort of a warm bed at the end of a long day, the taste of a meal that satisfied, the familiar sound of a loved one's voice, or the simple, undeniable gift of having made it through another day, with breath in your lungs and a heart that beats. This search is not an exercise in constructing a false positivity. It is an exercise in achieving a more complete and truthful perspective. A day is never one thing. A day that contains a significant professional setback also contains the warm cup of tea you drank while thinking the message from a friend that made you smile, the fact that your body carried you without complaint from place to place. To focus only on the setback is to tell a lie of omission about the totality of your experience. Gratitude corrects this imbalance. It is the act of acknowledging the full truth. Yes, there was struggle and also there was sustenance. Yes, there was disappointment and also there was comfort. By ending your day with this balanced view, you are not ignoring the negative. You are simply refusing to grant it a veto over your state of being. You are teaching your mind that while problems are to be acknowledged and addressed, they are not the only reality worth noting. You are strengthening the neural pathways that seek out and appreciate what is good, what is working, what is supportive. Over time, this nightly practice begins to bleed into your waking hours. You may find yourself noticing these small gifts in real time, collecting them unconsciously throughout the day, because your mind has been trained to recognize their value. Your baseline perception of life begins to shift from one of scarcity, what is missing, to one of abundance, what is already here and present. The impact of this on sleep, and by extension on your entire life, is profound. When you feed your subconscious mind a last meal of gratitude, you are giving it nourishing material to process through the night. The brain during sleep is not passive. It is intensely active, sorting memories, processing emotions, and consolidating the experiences of the day into the framework of yourself. If the last thoughts you offer it are of anxiety and lack, it will spend the night weaving those threads into your psychological fabric, reinforcing a story of fear and insufficiency. You may wake feeling as though you have been wrestling all night, because in a very real sense you have. But if the last thoughts you offer are of gratitude and acknowledgement of gifts, the subconscious works with that material. It integrates the feelings of safety, connection, and abundance. It strengthens the memory of positive experiences, making them more accessible to you in the future. You are essentially programming your mind to wake up looking for more of what you appreciated the night before. You wake up not with a sense of dread for the day's demands, but with a subtle, quiet expectation that there will be things to appreciate, moments of grace to discover, gifts to be found even amidst the inevitable challenges. This is how a simple statement of gratitude, repeated nightly, ceases to be just a routine and becomes a transformative force, reshaping your inner world from a place of want into a place of wholeness. I trust in my ability to handle whatever comes. As the external world grows quiet and the internal world grows loud, this is the hour when fear often chooses to speak. Its voice is not a shout but a whisper, a seemingly rational series of projections and simulations about the day to come. It presents you with a catalog of potential failures, social embarrassments, professional missteps, and unforeseen calamities. It operates under the guise of preparedness, convincing you that to worry is to be responsible, that to anticipate disaster is to be smart. But this is a deception. This process of nocturnal worrying is not preparation. It is a form of self-inflicted punishment that solves nothing and costs everything. It costs you your peace, it costs you your rest, and it ultimately costs you the vital energy you will need to actually handle the challenges when and if they arise. The antidote to this cycle is not a hollow promise that everything will be fine. The antidote is a deep earned and visceral trust in the one constant through every storm of your life, yourself. To declare, I trust in my ability to handle whatever comes, is to answer the whisper of fear with the clear, firm voice of self-reliance. It is to shift your focus from the terrifying uncertainty of future events to the undeniable evidence of your own proven resilience. This trust is not born from a life free of obstacles, but is forged in the fires of every obstacle you have already faced and overcome. Fear is selective in its memory. It wants you to forget your own history. It wants you to look at the unknown future and see only your potential weaknesses. But the truth of your life is a record of strength. Think back. There have been moments you were certain you could not endure. There have been losses that felt insurmountable, challenges that seemed designed to break you, days when getting out of bed felt like a monumental achievement. And yet here you are. You endured. You found a way through. You may have been scarred. You may have been changed. But you were not destroyed. You have a history of 100% survival rate. This is the evidence upon which you must build your trust. You are not the same person you were before those difficult moments. You are stronger, wiser, and more nuanced. You have developed resources you did not know you possessed. A certain toughness, a deeper compassion, a more darkly humorous view of life, a better understanding of what truly matters. This statement of trust is a conscious act of remembering who you are and what you are made of. It is reviewing the evidence of your life and concluding that you are, in fact, a capable and resilient being. This trust is also a trust in your ability to adapt and to learn. You do not have to have all the answers tonight for the problems of tomorrow. You do not need to know the exact path through a forest you have not yet entered. The trust is in knowing that when you face the situation, you will assess it, you will draw upon your knowledge and your intuition. You will make a decision based on the information available in that moment, and you will adjust your course as needed. It is trust in your process, not in a specific outcome. Life is inherently unpredictable, and trying to control every variable is a futile effort that leads only to exhaustion. True strength lies in flexible resilience, like a bamboo that bends in a storm but does not break because it is rooted in trust rather than rigidity. You are allowing yourself to be a work in progress, to not know everything, to make mistakes, and to learn from them. This trust acknowledges that sometimes handling what comes means standing firm, and sometimes it means yielding gracefully. Sometimes it means fighting, and sometimes it means accepting. You trust yourself to know the difference when the time comes. Ultimately, this declaration of self-trust is a powerful signal to your entire nervous system. The state of worry and fear activates the sympathetic nervous system. The fight or flight response, your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, your mind races. All states utterly incompatible with restful sleep. By choosing trust, you actively engage the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest response. You are telling your body, with the authority of your own conscious mind, that the watch is over. You are standing down the internal guard. You are communicating that it is safe to rest, safe to relinquish control for these few hours, safe to be vulnerable because the being at the core of it all is capable and strong. This allows your body to perform its essential nocturnal duties of repair and restoration without the corrosive interference of stress hormones. You are not sleeping to escape the world, but to fortify yourself for it. You fall asleep, not as a fearful child dreading the morning, but as a seasoned warrior stoking the fires of your own resilience, trusting that the person who wakes up will be equipped with the clarity, the strength, and the innate resourcefulness to meet the day on its own terms, whatever those terms may be. This trust is the deepest form of self-respect, and it is the foundation upon which truly peaceful and powerful days are built. My mind is calm. My body is at rest. In the architecture of the self, The mind and the body are not separate tenants occupying the same space. They are co-creators, engaged in a constant, intimate dialogue, where every thought whispers to the flesh and every sensation echoes in the chambers of consciousness. This conversation does not cease when the lights go out. In fact, it often grows more intense, more primal, as the distractions of the day fade away. What remains is this fundamental feedback loop, a cycle that can either be a vortex of tension or a vessel for profound peace. When the mind, clutching the day's worries, sends signals of alarm and agitation, the body has no choice but to listen and obey. The shoulders hike toward the ears, the jaw clenches as if ready to face a physical threat. The breath becomes shallow and rapid in the chest, preparing the system for a fight that exists only as electrical impulse in the brain. And the body, now tense and braced for an attack that never comes, sends its own message back to the mind. I am under stress. I am in danger. The mind receives this somatic report and, misinterpreting the physical tension as confirmation of an external threat, redoubles its anxious efforts, spinning faster into a storm of what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. This is how a single troubling thought can blossom into a full night of restless torment, a self-perpetuating cycle where mental anxiety begets physical stress, which begets deeper mental anxiety. To declare, my mind is calm, my body is at rest, is to step into this feedback loop, not as a passive participant, but as the conscious director of the conversation. This is not a hopeful wish sent out into the void. It is a deliberate, authoritative command issued to every cell and every synapse. It is the decision to use the voice of the mind, not to escalate the panic, but to orchestrate the peace. The power of this statement lies in its dual address. It speaks simultaneously to the psychological and the physiological, acknowledging their connection and guiding them both toward a single, unified state of being. The instruction begins with the mind, the source of the original signal. To state that the mind is calm is to consciously choose a new narrative over the chaotic one being generated by fear. It is an act of supreme authority, where the higher self informs the reactive mind that its services of hypervigilance are no longer required, that the watch is over, and that it is now time to stand down. This is the first and most critical break in the cycle. But the statement does not end there. It immediately bridges to the physical vessel. My body is at rest. This is where the command moves from the abstract to the tangible, from the declaration to the direct experience. As these words are formed, either aloud or in the silent theater of your mind, the attention must drop from the whirl of thoughts and into the physical realm. This is the practice of embodiment. You feel the weight of your body against the mattress, the gentle support of the pillow beneath your head. You notice the places where tension has taken up residence, the furrow in the brow, the grip in the gut, the tightness across the chest. And with the breath as your primary tool, you begin to send the message of release directly into those areas. You inhale awareness into the clenched jaw, and on the exhale, you consciously let it go, allowing the muscles to soften and dissolve into the support beneath them. You direct your attention to the shoulders and, with a silent sigh, feel them drop away from the ears, their weight fully surrendered to gravity. You notice the rhythm of your breathing and, without force, begin to lengthen and deepen each cycle, inviting the diaphragm to expand fully and the nervous system to recognize this pattern as one of safety and restoration. This is not a passive observation, it is an active participation in the unwinding of your own being. You are not waiting for rest to come to you. You are actively building it from the inside out, using the breath as your mortar and intention as your blueprint. The profound wisdom of this practice is that it leverages the very connection that causes so much suffering and turns it into a tool for liberation. The body, which so readily responds to the mind's fear, is equally responsive to the mind's gentle guidance toward peace. The autonomic nervous system, which governs these states of arousal and calm, is listening to your internal monologue. When you consistently and with deep feeling report a state of calm and rest, you are providing it with the data it needs to initiate the parasympathetic response, the rest and digest mode that is the absolute prerequisite for healing sleep. You are essentially issuing a safe conduct pass to every system in your body, giving it permission to cease its defensive preparations and turn its energy inward toward renewal and repair. The key, the absolute essence of making this work is the quality of your attention as you say these words. They must be imbued with the full weight of your intention. You must feel the truth of them as you speak them into existence. You are not reciting a magic spell. You are performing a precise internal operation using the power of your conscious awareness to align your entire being with the natural state of rest that is your birthright. You are quite literally speaking yourself into serenity, word by word, breath by breath, until the dialogue between mind and body becomes a single, harmonious lullaby guiding you into the depths of a peaceful night. Here's what happens when you make these 10 statements a nightly practice. Your subconscious mind begins to absorb them like seeds planted in fertile soil. Night after night, these truths take root deeper in your consciousness. They become part of who you are, not just what you think. Your sleep becomes deeper and more restorative. Your dreams become more peaceful. Your morning mood shifts from heavy to light, from anxious to calm, from overwhelmed to centered. You begin to wake up feeling like you can handle whatever the day brings. But the transformation goes even deeper than better sleep. These nightly practices begin to change how you move through your entire life. You become more forgiving, more accepting, more grateful, more trusting. You develop the kind of inner strength that doesn't depend on external circumstances. People will notice the change in you. They'll comment on your calmness, your clarity, your ability to stay centered when things get chaotic. They'll ask you what you're doing differently, and you'll smile, knowing that the secret is in those quiet moments before sleep when you choose to plant seeds of wisdom instead of weeds of worry. This is the power of conscious intention meeting ancient wisdom. This is how you transform not just your nights, but your entire life, one bedtime practice at a time. Your bedtime thoughts are creating your life experience every single night. You have the opportunity to program your subconscious mind for peace, strength, and wisdom. These 10 statements are not just words, they're tools for transformation. Start tonight. Choose just one or two of these statements that resonate most strongly with you. Say them with intention and attention as you prepare for sleep. Notice how your body and mind respond. Be patient with yourself as you develop this new habit. Remember, you're not trying to fix everything all at once. You're simply planting better seeds in the garden of your mind with time and consistencies. These seeds will grow into a life experience that reflects the peace and wisdom you're cultivating in those sacred moments before sleep. Your nights can become a source of healing instead of a time of worry. Your mornings can become filled with calm strength instead of anxious dread. It all begins with the choice you make tonight about what thoughts you'll take with you into sleep. Subscribe for more daily wisdom that can transform your life.